Alright, hello everybody. I got some time to myself. The kids are at school. Wife's getting her hair done. So I thought, might as well do another part in my Gobot Transformers series because I don't know, I'm a middle-aged man who, I guess that's what middle-aged men do now, make videos about toys. Oh, and I got my Marvel shirt on, saw Infinity War last night. It was really good, really good. I'm not going to do a review of it because there's already like a jillion and one reviews on YouTube about it. But yeah, I really liked it. Between the two universes, I'm a Marvel fan. I like their universe better. I like their heroes better. I like their approach to storytelling better. I don't hate DC. I don't, I really like Batman, and of course Wonder Woman and Superman. I watched the Super Friends when I was a really little kid, so it's not that I hate DC. I just think Marvel's better. So yeah. Go and see the movie. But anyway, I had actually thought about doing a script for this one, because there's so much material to cover. It's easy to go down a crap ton of rabbit holes and just get lost in the minutia of things. But I'll try to keep this concise as possible. First video was basically context. Explaining how Godzilla was brought over and how that kind of set the pattern of how Japanese entertainment properties would be brought over to the U.S. with rebranding, renaming, reworking, repackaging. I brought it into the toy line with talking a little bit about Mattel Shogun Warriors, was actually a bunch of different Japanese toy lines imported in by Mattel under one big toy line. But now we're going to get to the bots of the hour. Okay, early 80s, a lot of the toy manufacturers were kind of looking, it's like, hey, Mattel did well importing these toy lines, why don't we try to break into the American market on our own, cut out the middleman, make all the monies. And the effort was completely disastrous. Takara's Diaclone line, Poppy, which is a which was a subsidiary of Bandai, tried to bring their Diaclone and Machine Robo lines over to the U.S. and it did not go well. There really wasn't a lot of marketing behind them. I can't remember any commercials from that time for them. I just remember walking into Nichols, which was a regional department store chain here at the time, and with my mom, and there were these things that could change into robots. Which for me was cool. It's like, hey, it's a van that also becomes a robot. This is awesome. So there really wasn't any marketing, any strategy behind it. It's just like, here, kids. Oh, okay. I don't know if it's because American kids have really bad imaginations and we kind of need to be spoon-fed in some sort of backstory mythology or whatnot, but yeah, it didn't work. So they went back to the tried and true formula of finding an American partner to bring it in. And so, first one were the Gobots. Alright. Bandai, well, Poppy, which was a subsidiary of Bandai, as I said before. Machine Robo line was brought into the United States by Tonka Corporation, which was the maker of the venerable Tonka trucks. They were completely indestructible. If you were a male child growing up, you got these as hand-me-downs because they did not break. So it's sort of like aunts, uncles who are like, oh, Mikey grew out of this. Here, you can give it to your little one now. Whereas Hasbro, who had a hit with G.I. Joe in the 60s and early 70s, brought in Takara's Diaclone and Microchange lines under the name Transformers. And in the early 80s, if you would have bet which one would have done better, it would be Gobots. Tonka was in a much better shape. Like I said, their toy truck line was doing very well. Hasbro wasn't doing too well. G.I. Joe had fallen out of favor after the Vietnam War. So Tonka was in in better shape. The Gobots were cheaper, and they were first. They came out in '83. Transformers in '84. However, what made there were this is where you get into where minor business decisions, which gave a little bit of an advantage early on, led up to big advantages later on. Hasbro, being in the situation they were with one of their premier toy lines falling out of favor, saw in the early 80s there was kind of this neo-nationalism going on. People wanted to kind of look back. So they elected a slick-talking D-list celebrity who promised to make it morning again in America into office. Kind of like, Reagan really was the 80s version of Trump. And there was this new thing of new nationalism, new national pride. We're going to rebuild the military. We're going to take on the evil empire and all that other nonsense. But with that happening, Hasbro was like, okay, maybe we can bring back G.I. Joe. So instead of just bringing the toy back, they came up with a pretty good idea. They partnered with Marvel. See, there's another reason besides the movie for this shirt. They partnered with Marvel Comics and their animation wing, Sunbow Entertainment, to come up with a two-part marketing strategy. First, Marvel would do a comics line, kind of prime the pump, then do a cartoon with their animation wing, Sunbow, to open the floodgates. And that worked. It worked beautifully. So Hasbro had now a winning strategy, marketing strategy, that they just repeated with the Transformers. Not only that, partnering with Marvel was the one that wrote the backstory for the Transformers. They came up with the names for the Transformers and the personalities of the Transformers. So you have this historied, children's entertainment company, Marvel, great storytelling coming up with all these characters. So that's a really big advantage. Tonka, on the other hand, all they did was come up with a promotional book. They didn't partner with any comic companies or anything like that. They just came up with a book kind of with the backstory. Which I will say, Gobots as mythology, much more developed. And that was also a gamble each company took. Hasbro was like, we're going to give you more defined characters. We're going to define these characters inside and out, tell you exactly who they are, but we'll leave where they came from and all that kind of squishy and in the ether. We'll let you figure that out as you play. Tonka was like, okay, we're going to give you a pretty good backstory, but the characters are going to leave vague. You'll get their name and what side they're on, and you can build whatever personalities you want around them. Once again, gamble, Hasbro's paid off. It turns out kids like things they can identify with. You don't have to create a character from whole cloth. It's like, oh, you can just read the bio and go, oh, that's that character, that's how they're going to be played, so, you know. Whereas Gobots, like, okay, I know where they came from, but I'm looking at this thing, it's a Rolls Royce that transforms into a dude with a top hat, and he's an evil guy. Also, in the business relationship, Hasbro and Tonka had a much better relationship than Bandai and Tonka did. For Bandai, Tonka was a means to an end. So it was their the end was to get into the American market and make money. Tonka allowed them to do that, and they did it under the name Gobots. All right, fine, whatever. But it was just one of many. In Australia, the Machine Robo line was imported under the name Machine Men. And England and other parts of Europe, they were imported in as Robo Machine. Names would be different. Even allegiances would be different. In the United States, under Gobots line, Psycho was the head of the bad guys. And I think it was England and Europe, where they were imported under the name Robo Machine. I think Psycho was one of the good guys. Backstory was different. There was no underlying brand ID, or it was different per region. So when the cartoon version of the Gobots came out, how it really didn't sell well in other markets, because it's like, Gobots, where are those? They look like Machine Men, or they look like Robo Machine, or they look like Machine Robo, which was still going on in Japan. So there was no sense of an overarching brand. Whereas with Transformers, Tonka saw how well Hasbro was doing repackaging their toys under this new brand name. They're like, well, Diaclone's kind of dying out in our country anyhow. The rebranding's doing well, so we'll just change the name to Transformers. And for the most part, that's been what they've been known as all over. So the Transformers in Australia, the Transformers in Japan, the Transformers in Europe, the Transformers in America. Wherever you go, they're Transformers. So that made it easy for the cartoon and the comic books to be put out everywhere, because there was no conflict. I mean, there were some minor changes, like in Europe, the second year, Jetfire was promoted as Autobot leader in the European catalog, whereas in the States, Optimus Prime was still alive and leader. But minor stuff like that, nothing to the confusing depths that Gobots, had. And then you look at how each company dealt with success. Tonka, when they had success with Gobots, they were like, okay. Other companies came and said, hey, you're doing really well. How about we pay you a licensing fee to get the name Gobots and put it on our stuff? And it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, pay us that money. And so you got a lot of products with the Gobots name. cap guns and stuff like that, which was really, when you hear people talk about Gobots being inferior, that's usually what they're talking about, because the mainline toys were as good, if not better, than Transformers. Whereas Hasbro's approach was, when Transformers started taking off, they're like, let's look at other toy lines similar to this that we can bring product into. So you had the Valkyrie from Robotech being brought in under the name Jetfire. You had another one, I think Astro Man, being brought in under the name Shockwave. The Deluxe Insecticons were from another line. Deluxe Autobots from '85. Robust and Whirl were actually from the Doravon anime. And were made by Bandai, because Bandai didn't care. It's like, we'll partner with Tonka, we'll partner with Hasbro, we'll partner with Matchbox, whatever we can use to get our product into the American market and make money. Which created some headaches for all three companies, because when Matchbox secured the rights to release Robotech toys in America, they couldn't release the actual transforming Valkyrie because that was licensed to Hasbro. And of course, Takara saw this and got ticked off. Like, hey, you're supposed to be bringing our stuff in, not our competitors, okay? That's why in the cartoon, not only was the design different, but the name was different. Jetfire got turned into Skyfire. He didn't look like the toy. He had a different name from the toy. The Deluxe Insecticons were never in the cartoon because, like I said, they were made by another company. They were made by Bandai too. Roadbuster and Whirl never brought in because they were made by Bandai. The only one I think that was actually the only one that was brought in was Shockwave, and I'm not sure what the deal was that allowed him to be brought in, but he was. So that's kind of like why all that happened. It's like Kara's kind of like, okay, you want to do this? Fine. You just leave him out of the comic books. You leave him out of the cartoon. We're not promoting our competitors' toys. So Hasbro could then do is find the best toys from these other lines to bring in, kind of strengthen their hand, instead of allowing the name to be schlepped out to whatever 2-bit product that could be, which is what Tonka did. And eventually what ended up happening is, as I stated before, Gobots and Transformers were just part of a robot craze in the 80s. Robot Force, Robotech, I forgot. Voltron. So they were just part of this umbrella fad of robots. And like most fads, it eventually peters out. So as the trend started to die down, less popular ones started to peel away and die off first. And with, like I said, with Gobots, even though they initially sold better, came out first, because of those early mistakes or poor decisions, no overarching brand ID, lack of promotion, lack of a promotional strategy like Hasbro had with the comic books and the cartoons, although Gobots would eventually get a cartoon series, which I'll go into in another video. And, so things like that, Gobots lost their popularity a little bit first, ending its run in 87. With 83 to 87, that's a 4-year run. That's a pretty good run. But even Transformers, by 1989, Transformers were dead. I mean, my generation was growing up and moving on, And the next generation, they had their own thing. They had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, things like that. So, I mean, people don't realize how deep down the whole Transformers were. It really wasn't until the movies came out that they really properly came back. They had some fits and starts through the years, mainly with Beast Wars. But for the most part, Transformers were like, it's like, oh, they're still around? Really? Hmm. Oh well, I thought they died off, but oh well. Yeah. Gobots cartoon, I think, went out in 80. Like I said, I think that stopped production in 87, maybe 88. Transformers cartoon, in the United States at least, stopped in 89. The Gobots movie didn't flopped. And guess what? The Transformers movie didn't do well either. So both toy lines, just one completely died out and one was comatose and on life support. The one thing that did help was, like I said, the partnership that Hasbro had with Takara. Because once Bandai saw that the line had died out in America, it's like, all right, bye bye. Packed up and went home. Whereas Takara, maybe it was because they did change the line name to Transformers. It's like, okay, when we've rebranded it as this, we can't really call it Diaclone or Microchange again. So, we're invested in this, property now. We got to make this work. Whereas, Bandai's is like, oh, well, that's done. Well, we'll make our own Machine Robo cartoons, and we'll just go back to marketing as Machine Robo. Because it had always been Machine Robo in Japan. So, and then Tonka would eventually go out of business, be bought by Hasbro, and with that, they got the rights to all the Gobots names and personality profiles. And there was no way they would ever bring that back. Because even though you can make the argument, well, if they brought it back, then they got both franchises in their hands. They can be making money double-fisted. But Takara would not let that happen. Once again, it's like you're bringing back our competitor. This won't do us any good. We're not getting any money off of this. Although Takara did produce a mini run of repainted G1 Transformers with Gobot names. I've seen them, and anyway. But yeah, so the line was effectively snuffed out, and that's kind of allowed some second generation hate. People who weren't alive during the 80s were like, well, there were these two lines, this one passed out, that must be because they're crap. And it's really led to some very unfair characterizations of the toy line. But anyway, that's part 2. I've talked too long. We'll pick up in the next episode. Alright. See ya.